in your eyes, I know that you and I, we don't budget necessarily, but what do you think the purpose of a budget is? And like, how do you get around like accomplishing that purpose without having a budget?
Yeah, so I think the purpose of a budget is to know what's happening with your money. I think a lot of times the assumption is that folks who don't budget don't know what's happening with their money, and they may get to the end of the month or the end of a 2 week pay period and have less money than they thought they did, or have less money than they need. And so a budget is supposed to help you structure things so that you're not surprised at the end of the month or the end of a pay period, that you know exactly how much money you have to accomplish the things that you desire. So that's what I think the purpose of a budget is. Obviously, you and I have found a way to get to that purpose without a strict budget. And I don't know about you, but I use something called a spending plan. I think it's semantics of what we call it, but we have other ways of getting to that goal.
Yeah, so I call it a cash flow plan, spending plan. I used to call it backwards budgeting. I think it goes by a lot of names, but by and large, I've tried to avoid the word budget just because it has such a
Yes.
negative connotation in my world. And I think for a lot of people too. And it's hilarious because I've talked about this topic so many times. I know there are people listening to this right now. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I love budgeting. I'm a detail oriented person. Like this is my thing. It's what I do. And so for me, like I'm not a detail oriented person. I am a high level, abstract, problem solving kind of person. And if you listen to this podcast, you probably figure that out. I love taking complicated things and making them simple for people. And that's my like superpower. That's, really my superpower. Detailed, not my thing. Like I've got two Kristens in my life. One of them's my sister. She's my business manager at the Philosopher. Hilariously, my wife is also named Kristen. They spell it differently. And she does the detail oriented stuff at home because that's just not my thing. But what I do think is important is that concept, right? The point of a budget is to have cash flow at the end of the month, right? That you can spend money with and enjoy life to some extent. We actually have an episode coming up in the future how you and I are going to talk about how we do spend money and might spend money a little differently than a lot of personal finance gurus talk about. But yeah, so it's all about cash flow, really. The spending plan, a cash flow plan, whatever you want to call it, and that idea is to have an organized or structured way in which you're accomplishing your financial goals first. And I think that happens whether you budget, cash flow plan, spending plan. Like people that know about personal finance, you automate stuff up front, right, to get to those long-term financial goals. And
Yes.
then the details will come out however it ends up coming out, whether that's a budget or cash flow plan. So for me, as always, this comes back to cash flow. Cash flow is king, queen, jester of the courts. Like it's everything. And so when you have the money coming in, whatever that number is at the top, line, and how you get to the bottom of the line, those processes are going to be different. But what you have to accomplish is your long-term, financial plans, your medium-term, your short-term plans, and then spend the rest. Start before you're ready. Start by starting. Start now.